Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And now is the summer of our discontent, as Shakespeare didn't write. It seems up and down Scotland there are going to be an awful lot of public sector strikes. The reason, of course, is that inflation is still riding quite high, and with the frozen, unfortunately, council taxes, the councils don't have the money to give a decent pay rise. What the council have decided is instead to give everyone who works for the council a pay cut. Now, it will be dressed as a pay rise. Oh, look, we're giving you 3%. But of course, when inflation is 4 or 5 or 6%, that is not a pay rise. It is a real terms cut, and people can't afford to live as they are, especially with taxes increasing, the food prices increasing, and once again, we're seeing the cost of fuel increase. These increases are important because it isn't the sort of money that you spend willy-nilly. It isn't disposable income. This is things you need to survive. You know, a roof, food, transport. These aren't optional. They're necessary. And if you are cutting the pay of people, they can't afford to work for you anymore. And so the unions are saying, not enough. As I say, the average is about 3% across the country. That's what's being offered. Some places as little as 2%. So it's not surprising that the unions are having none of it, and they want a real terms pay rise. And as they've said, they've had cut after cut in real terms for several years now, and they want 10%. And to be honest, looking at the numbers, I don't blame them. I think it's about right. After all, if senior fat cats in the council can give themselves £60,000 and £70,000 a year rises with bonuses plus the pension options, it's only fair those at the bottom doing the actual work also get their pay rises as well. Let's take a look. So, Scots face summer of strikes as council budget for 3% pay rise for staff, which, as I pointed out, is actually a pay cut in real terms. Prices aren't going down, so why should wages be withheld? Now, these are the same councils offering such a pittance to the poor, while they are sitting there spending hundreds of thousands of pounds, sending, for example, old Two Seats to Dubai with her whole entourage and force-feeding her caviar for every mile of the trip at 30,000 feet. She's the one who now earns more than Rishi Sunak. She's the one getting the big bonuses. She's the one with the huge, huge pension that will last her for the rest of her life, so long as she doesn't go into a Greggs. Meanwhile, at the bottom, the impoverished, the poor, sit there and are given an extra couple of shillings a week and told to be grateful for it. We're returning to Victorian values in Scotland, and it isn't right. A fair wage for a fair day's work, and make sure they earn enough that they don't need to go and get benefits as well as their earnings. If you're not earning enough, or at least if your employer isn't paying you enough that you need to go and get benefits as well, then the problem's the employer, not the tax system. Make them pay you more. They can afford it. How do we know? They're the ones paying all themselves all this big money. If they are so rich that they can afford to do that, they can afford to pay a bit more to the workers. So insiders say the government will have to step in, as 3% will not be enough to avert school closures and other services grinding to a halt. And I've always maintained, and it's a truism, I'm left of centre when it comes to people, right of centre when it comes to money. But when it comes to basic earnings for people to live on, raise a family, put a roof over their head, you've got to side with people, not the money. And that's how it goes. Scotland could be heading for a summer of strikes after councils budgeted for a 3% pay rise for hundreds of thousands of staff. The below-inflation rise does not come close to meeting the demands of trade unions, and insiders fear industrial action is likely, and, I think I probably support it. Relations between the unions and town halls are poor in the wake of recent strikes in recent years. Schools closed last year and only reopened after the Scottish Government put more money on the table. COSLA, the umbrella group representing councils, has not tabled a pay offer for 24-25, but a move is expected this month. And if it's under 10%, I think there will be trouble. Now, before we get into the next bit there, I will point out that there are some people saying, oh yes, but councils can't afford it. No, councils can't afford it. And that's why you need more money from central government. you're saying, but central government haven't got it. Central government are about to spend £45 million on road signs. So central government have got the money. They're just choosing not to spend it on people, but instead to spend it on imposing authority over people. There is a difference. Just think of a boot on a human face, and that's where you are with the SNP. It's understood that cash-strapped councils have the cash for a 3% rise, with some budgeting between 2% and 4%. But such an offer would be unacceptable to the unions, with the GMB demanding an extra £1.50 an hour for workers. They say this would ensure more than half the workforce receiving a rise above 10%, with 4 and 5 staff getting at least 7.5%. Fair enough. Unison, the biggest union in local government, has tabled an offer for the above inflation rise for the low paid and a 7% increase across all spinal points. The council source said unless the government coughed up more money, schools would close and refuse workers could go on strike. Although in Glasgow, who would notice? Most councils have only budgeted for around 3% pay rises this year, they said. This is well short of unions' expectations, and they're looking for an average of 7 to 8% and more for the lowest paid workers to continue progress towards the minimum hourly rate of £15 an hour. And I think that's about right. That's close. That's about the living wage. You know, there's the minimum wage and then there's the living wage. But I think the minimum wage is about £12 an hour now. I think £13 an hour. So an extra 15, an extra couple to make it 15. I don't think that's something the country can't afford. Certainly not when you look at the money they're spending elsewhere. David O'Connor, Unison local government organiser, said Unison has yet to receive a response from COSLA. Before we go, I'm just going to say this is going to be cross-union. This will be GMB, Unison, all sorts of things. There'll be other people, because you're going to have those directly employed by the council, but you're also going to have those employed up as contractors. And they're going to say, well, hang on, they're getting that, and they've got their employers, so their employers will then have to put the contracts up on the council and everything. It seems only fair. But when you think about who could go on strike, there's a lot of people. Now, I would hope and think that wiser heads would, prevail. And while you can close schools and refuge and things like that, and recycling centres, that sort of thing, I do hope that, like, severe needs care would not be affected by this. I think that does need to care on, but with support of people, of course. Unison has yet to receive a response, they said, from COSLA to our local government pay claim. And this was submitted in January. And if councils are budgeting 3% for pay, we know it falls far short of our pay claim. I don't know. Let me know in the comments here, because these people are paid so little anyway. And it does sound, look at them, getting a massive pay rise. A massive pay rise in terms of percentage, maybe. But in real terms, it's not actually a lot of money. And certainly, if you ditch the road, the 20 mile an hour road thing and took that 45 million, that'd be a big chunk towards it, surely. It's not just me, is it? It's quite simple, surely. It's not hard. Stop spending money on shit and spend money where it's needed, on people. Ultimately, people are more important than shit. Except in the eyes of the SNP, who think that people are shit. Local government, they say, local government workers provide the services we all rely on, caring for our most vulnerable, educating our children and keeping our local communities safe and clean. They've seen the value of their pay eroded over a decade while bills continue to soar. They haven't had an above inflation rise for years. Without investment in the local government workforce, there will be no public services. It is vital COSLA budget for a fair pay rise and ensure local government workers are fairly rewarded for the vital services they provide. Keir Greenaway, GMB Scotland senior organiser in public services, said the offer is already too late, but will almost certainly be too low. We're already asking our members their view on taking industrial action because the clock is ticking. And tick away it will. I don't think the councils will cave quickly. I think they will be forced into it by a strike. They will then have to come back. They'll just have to go to the government and say, look, we've got to do it. And when there's not a child in school, there's not a bin lorry running, when all the recycling centres are closed, when all the recreation centres are closed, swimming pools are closed, and everyone's sitting at home going, this is it, we're done. and we're going to stay out until we get our 10%. And I think that's fair. I absolutely think that's fair. These people are paid so little, they're treated like shit. Meanwhile, those at the top sitting there, the big council chiefs earning them big money, huge pay rises. It's not right. I'll stop there and I'll come up. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, ultimately, of course, this is all taxpayers' money and the taxpayers pay it. And that's fine, that's what happens. But I think that generally, most people who pay tax accept that this has got to be paid. You've got to pay these people. But I think also most people would prefer their money going to real people, workers, the grunts, the ones who do the heavy lifting, rather than the fat cats sitting there on fully padded expenses on their huge fat asses on sometimes 2 seats. After all, it's not those at the top that are actually helping the people. They're just pointing and eating and drinking and parasites really at the top. Whereas the real workers are the ones who are treated abominably. They deserve the money. Let them have it. Make councillors work for free and the money saved goes to the workers. How's that? That's a brilliant proposal. If I was a councillor, I'd propose it. Get your expenses, a stipend, and that's it. There you go. Job's good. If you don't like it, don't be a councillor. I guarantee if that was the case and they got rid of all the councillors tomorrow and said, okay, you're not getting paid, you get your expenses only, there'd be a queue from here to Inverness. Why? Because it isn't about the money, it's about the power. Thanks very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and definitely leave a comment. I want to know what your thoughts on this one are. And I will speak to you later. Bye.